Regio Dolphins. Welcome back to another installment of the Westing Game. Today we're going to be reading chapters 23 and 24. There is a lot that gets disclosed in these next two chapters. It may even take a lot of twists and turns and could be confusing. So we're going to be taking additional notes today than we have previously in order to help us keep everything straight. As typical, we're going to start off by reviewing chapters 21 and 22 from yesterday. So if you need to pause this, you can. Our vocabulary words were derelict and smart aleck. Derelict is an adjective in a very poor condition as a result of disuse and neglect. Smart aleck is a noun, a person who is irritating because they behave as if they know everything. And then our summary and prediction writing, I said answers will vary because the summary, if you remember, needed to be about 5 to 10 sentences long, just focusing on the main ideas of these two chapters. And then the prediction was, do you think Sam Westing is alive? Why or why not? This is entirely an opinion writing piece, so I couldn't necessarily write something down because it could change depending on your belief system. So right now, I would say that there's probably a group of you that think for sure he's dead. Why wouldn't you think that? His body was found by Turtle, that he had an open casket where he was dressed up like Uncle Sam at his will reading. He has a will. He has a lawyer reading that will. They're looking for the murderer. I mean, this entire book is based off of the premise that he's dead. With that being said, some of you may be thinking, or not, maybe he could be alive. Maybe this is all a ruse or a misguided notion as a way for him to play this horrible game and seek his revenge on a certain somebody from the group. Now, if you do think, in fact, he's alive, what clues from our reading yesterday led you to think that? I could say that there are a couple clues that stick out to me. One, Turtle talks about when she found the body that he looked waxy like a dummy. Well, is it possible that Sam Westing, with all of his money, could create a wax dummy replica of himself to make it look like he was dead? J.J. Ford also talks about how he looked in the casket as he did 15 years ago. Well, the reason why that's suspicious is in 15 years, people age, so he should look a bit different. But also, he was in a severe car accident. If you remember Sidney Sykes, he ended up getting a severe leg injury, which now has a limp. Curious. That makes me go back to the very beginning when Chris saw somebody walking into the Westing estate property with a limp. We're still trying to figure out who that person with a limp could be. Sidney Sykes probably has a limp from that leg injury. And then we also hear that Sam Westing had severe facial injuries, and then he disappeared. Well, severe facial injuries would make you think that he probably had scarring, a deformity, that he would look different. But for him to look exactly the same as he did 15 years ago is also suspicious. It makes us think that there's a possibility that maybe he looks entirely different. In fact, he knows people like Sidney Sykes, who was a doctor of plastic surgery, that maybe he is made to look like somebody else. Okay. Let's wrap our heads around that. If Sam Westing is alive, who could be Sam Westing? Who of these characters that we have met so far could potentially be Sam Westing? So keep that in your mind as we're reading these next two chapters because a lot is going to be revealed. Okay, so moving into chapters 23 and 24, we have our two vocabulary words, swath and confound. We're going to continue with our clue cards. Before we read, I'll review those today as well. But we actually have quite a bit of writing to do today. So I'm going to hold this up and ask that you pause the video so you can copy it down. It says, the Westing heirs are asked 2 times in the story for signature and titles. How have their titles changed in chapter 23? So what I've done here is I have written the name of the person, their title from chapter 7, and I have left their title for chapter 23 blank unless they stayed exactly the same. So, for example, Madame Who wrote cook. She wrote cook again in chapter 23, so I kept it the same. So again, please pause this. And then you're going to do the same thing with the remaining people as well. So again, you're going to need to pause in order to copy these down. Notice that Otis Amber also stays the same. He wrote deliverer in chapter 7 and writes deliverer again in chapter 23. So you may be wondering, why am I asking you to write down the changes of titles? The reason why is because as we're reading this story and as we're getting to know these characters, they're going through a lot of turmoil, right? They're learning more about themselves. Maybe they're not trusting the people that they're with. They've had a lot of experiences happen to them over this time period, and it's changed their view of not just themselves, but of the world. It is helping us wrap our head around who these people are and how they're currently feeling compared to how they felt at the very beginning of the game. A lot has changed for all of these people. Okay, let's review our cards. I think the only one that I added was that we had Turtle Wexler set off the 4th bomb to protect Angela. That's sister love right there, right? She's taking the fall. Curious enough, J.J. Ford mentions that because she's a minor, that her consequence wouldn't be severe and it wouldn't fall on her permanent record. It's almost as though Turtle Wexler knew this, right? She's a very crafty young lady. I added that Christos Theodorakis is now taking medication that's helping his speech. We learned that this is helping his speech when he's left with J.J. Ford because they're able to have a conversation. Sandy McSuthers complains that Barney Northrup fires him as a doorman for no reason. He claims this is the 2nd time he has now been fired without any due cause. We also learned from J.J. Ford that she actually grew up in the Westinghouse. Sam was mean to her when they would play chess, but at the same time paid for her education and probably is the reason why she's now sitting as a judge. Okay. I added here for Bertha Erica Crow that she may be Mrs. Westing with a question mark. This was proposed by J.J. Ford. She felt like she put the pieces together and she thinks that it's Bertha Erica Crow that Sam Westing is after and that she needs to protect. Now, according to Sandy McSuthers, he thinks that Otis Amber may be Sam Westing in disguise. So under Otis Amber, I wrote maybe Sam Westing in disguise according to Sandy. And then I think that was all that I had placed from yesterday's reading. I would like you to try to create one more card for me, and this is a Sam Westing card. Again, we're going to learn a lot about him. We're going to find out if he's alive or dead in these next couple chapters. And as we're trying to put the pieces together, it'd be great if you had a clue card for him where we could start figuring out his motive and what's making him want to follow suit with this Westing game. Okay, without further ado, let's read. Chapter 23, Strange Answers. Lawyer Plum was there and one pair of heirs when Otis Amber danced into the game room. The turtle's lost its tail, I see. Turtle slumped low in her chair. Flora Baumbach thought the short, sleek haircut was adorable, especially the way it swept forward over her little chin. But Turtle did not want to look adorable. She wanted to look mean. The dressmaker fumbled past the wad of money in her handbag. Here, Alice, I thought you might like to see this. Turtle glanced at the old snapshot. It's Baba, all right, except younger. Same dumb smile. Suddenly, she sat upright. That's my daughter, Rosalie, Flora Baumbach said. She must have been 9 or 10 when that picture was taken. Rosalie was squat and square and squinty. Her protruding tongue was too large for her mouth. Her head lolled to one side. I think I would have liked her, Baba, Turtle said. Rosalie looks like she was a very happy person. She must have been nice to have around. Thump, 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 thump. Here comes the victim, Sidel Pulaski announced. Angela greeted her sister with a wave of crimson-streaked healing hand. Turtle had convinced her not to confess. It would mean a criminal record. It would kill their mother, and no one would believe her anyhow. I like your haircut. Thanks, Turtle replied. Now Angela had to love her forever. Most of the heirs had to comment on Turtle's hair. You look like a real businesswoman, Sandy said. Well, that's an improvement, Denton Deer said. You look nice, Chris said. Only Theo, bent over the chessboard, said nothing. White had moved the king's bishop since the last meeting. It was his move. At last the stairs turned from Turtle's hair to a more surprising sight. Judge Ford strode in as regally as an African princess, her noble head swathed in a turban, her tall body draped in yards of hand-printed cloth. She slipped a note to Denton Deer, then sailed to her place at table 4. Goggle-eyed, Otis Amber was speechless. They all were, except for Sandy. Gee, that's a nifty outfit, Judge. The judge did not reply. Applaud, the local hero has arrived. Doug raised his arms, pointing his index fingers to the flaking gilt ceiling in the I'm number 1 sign, and acknowledged the clapping with a victory lap around the room. Here come the Wexlers, Mr. Who remarked, seating his puzzled wife at table 1. Turtle exchanged an anxious glance with Angela. The last time they saw their mother, she was crying her head off. Now the tears were gone from her bleary eyes, but she was staggering, giggling. Her hair was a mess. Sorry we're late, Jake apologized. We lost track of time. They had been clinking wine glasses in a small cafe, the cafe they used to go to before they were married, toasting good times. They had had many good times together, many good memories shared, it seems, 3 big wine bottles full. Happy Grace waved at the heirs. She felt so wonderful, so overflowing with love for Jake, for everybody. Hi, Mom, Turtle called. Grace blinked at a young, short-haired girl. Who's that? Jake greeted his partner with a, How are you this fine day? Doug Wynne, replied Madame Who. Having opened the door to the last of the heirs, a tense and troubled Crow took her seat next to Otis Amber. Ghost threatened, she waited for the unseen. Hey, lawyer, can we open these? Otis Amber shouted, waving an envelope. A similar envelope lay on each table. His forehead creased with uncertainty. Ed Plum fumbled through his papers. I guess so, was his opinion. Cheers erupted as the heirs withdrew the checks. Again, Judge Ford signed her name to the $10,000 check and handed it to the doorman. Here you are, Mr. McSuthers. This should tide you over until you find another job. Sandy's heartfelt thanks were muffled by Sidel Pulaski's loud shh. Shh, Grace Wexler mimicked, when she dropped her head into her crossed arms on the table and fell asleep to the sound of the lawyer's throat-clearing coughs. 12th. Okay, so he's continuing to read the will now. Welcome again to the Westinghouse. By now, you have received a second check for $10,000. Before the day is done, you may have won more, much more. Table by table, each pair will be called to give one and only one answer. The lawyer will record your response in case of a dispute. He does not know the answer. It is up to you. Number 1, Madame Who, cook. Jake Wexler, bookie. Bookie? He really must have been distracted when he signed that receipt. Jake studied the 5 clues on the table. Of America and God above. Even knowing his wife's clues didn't help. He'd have to gamble on a long shot. Say something, he said to his partner. Boom, said Madame Who. Ed Plum wrote, Table 1, boom. Number 2, Flora Baumbach, dressmaker. Turtle Wexler, financier. Turtle read a prepared statement. In spite of the fact that the stock market dropped 30 points since we received our $10,000, we have increased our capital to $11,587.50, an appreciation of 27.8% calculated on an annual basis. Flora Baumbach slapped a wad of bills on the table and 2 clinking quarters. In cash, she said. Ed Plum asked them to repeat their answer. Table 2's answer is $11,587.50. Sandy applauded. Turtle took a bow. 3. Christos Theodorakis, ornithologist. Denton Deer, intern. Ornithologist? His brother must have given him that fancy title when he filled in the receipt. Maybe he would become an ornithologist someday. He was a lucky person getting that medicine and all. He didn't want to accuse anybody, not Judge Ford, apartment 4D, not Otis, Grain, Amber, not the limper, just about everybody limped at one time or another. Today, Sandy was limping. I think Mr. Westing is a good man, Chris said aloud. I think his last wish was to do good deeds. He gave me a partner who helped me. He gave everybody a perfect partner to make friends. What is Table 3's answer, the lawyer asked. Denton Deer replied, Our answer is, Mr. Westing was a good man. 4. J.J. Ford, judge. Alexander McSuthers, fired. We don't have an answer, the ex-doorman responded as planned. The judge looked at Table 3. Denton Deer, her note in his hand, shook his head, which meant, no, Otis Amber has not had the plastic surgery done on his face. The judge turned to Table 6. Otis Amber could not be Sam Westing. She was right to have trusted him. But Crow is expecting something to happen. Crow knows she is the answer. She knows she is the one. 5. Gracie Winkloppel Wexler, restaurateur. James Who, inventor. Grace raised her head. Did someone say Winkloppel? Never mind, Winkloppel. It's our turn, Who snarled. The lawyer got names and positions all fouled up, and I've got a drunk for a partner. He prodded Grace to her feet. Faces were swirling. The floor was swaying. Grace grabbed the edge of the floating table and gave her answer in a thick, slurred voice. The newly decorated restaurant, Who's on First, the eatery of athletes, will hold its grand reopening on Sunday. Specialty of the day, fruited sea bass on purple waves. Grace sat down where the chair wasn't. Turtle gasped. Angela looked away. The airs tittered as Jake helped his wife from the floor. What is Table 5's answer, please? The lawyer pressed. Ed Plum, said Mr. Who. Yes, sir. That is our answer. Ed Plum. Oh. 6. Bertha Erica Crow, mother. Otis Amber, deliverer. Mother? Did I write mother? Crow mumbled. Is that your answer? Ed Plum asked. I don't know, Otis Amber replied. Is mother our answer, Crow? He could have sworn she had again signed the receipt, Good Salvation Soup Kitchen. Crow repeated, mother, and that's what the lawyer wrote down. 7. Douglas Who, champ. Theo Theodorakis, writer. Their clues, a chemical formula for an explosive and the letters O-T-I-S. Doug, basking in glory, didn't care. Theo stood, turned to the man he was about to accuse, and saw the scene in the soup kitchen, saw Otis Amber cooking soup for the dirty, hungry men. No answer, Theo said, sitting down. 8. Sidel Pulaski, victim. Angela Wexler, person. Sidel was dressed for the occasion in red and white stripes, leaning on crutches decorated with white stars on a field of blue to match the cast on her ankle. She hummed into a pitch pipe and began to sing one note above the pitch she played. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. What a spectacle she made, her wide rear end sticking out, singing in that tuneless nasal voice. The derisive smile soon faded as pair by pair the heirs heard their code words sung. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Such a beautiful song, Grace Wexler slurred, but the others sat in somber silence. Even Turtle thought Table 8 had won. What is your answer? Ed Plum asked. Our answer, Sidel Pulaski announced with certainty, is Otis Amber. The heirs listened to the lawyer read the next document, but their eyes stayed fixed on Table 8's answer, Otis Amber. 13th. Okay, folks, there will be a short break before the big winner is announced. Bertha Erica Crow, please rise and go to the kitchen for the refreshments. Dazed with fear, Crow rose. The 13th section, 13 was an unlucky number. Judge Ford told Sandy to follow her. Hey, Crow, old pal, do me a favor and fill this for me, he said, handing her his flask as they left through the door. I'll go on the wagon starting tomorrow, promise. Angela left the room, too, concerned over Crow's trance-like state. Turtle followed Angela to make sure she didn't end up in the fireworks room again. The judge remained seated, watching the remaining heirs who were watching Otis Amber. The delivery boy had had enough of their suspicions. He swept a pointed finger across their range, imitating the sound of a machine gun. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. Crow and Angela came back with 2 large trays. Turtle returned empty-handed, puzzled but much relieved. The judge joined Denton Deer and Chris at table 3, bringing a plate of small cakes with her. None of the heirs have had plastic surgery, as far as I can tell, the intern remarked. But your partner sure could have used some. The judge studied Sandy McSuther's prize-fighter's face as he leaned against the open doorway. Their eyes met, and he lifted his flask in salute. Anybody want a drink? Sure, Grace Wexler replied with a giggle, but Jake gave her a cup of strong black coffee instead. We must keep our wits about us, Mr. McSuthers, Judge Ford said, walking toward him. Sam Westing has not made his final move. Nothing like scotch to clear the head, he replied. He took a long swig, coughed, wiped his mouth on the sleeve of his uniform, and glared at Crow with narrowed, watery eyes. Theo grinned down at the chess table. White had made another move, a careless move. He licked the cake crumbs with his fingers, wiped his hand on a Westing paper tea napkin, and took his opponent's queen from the board. At least he had won the chess game. Perched on a corner of table 8, the young lawyer tried to start a conversation with Angela, ignoring Sidel Pulaski, who twice asked, Surely you must have the answer, Mr. Plum. She nudged her partner. Surely you must have the answer, Mr. Plum, Angela repeated sweetly. Oh, of course, at least I assume I do, he replied. My instructions are to open the documents one by one at the scheduled time. He checked his watch. Oops, he was 1 minute late. Ed Plum hurried to the billiard table, tore open the next envelope, and pulled out the document, cutting his finger on the paper's edge. 14th, go directly to the library. Do not pass go. Okay, notice, I just want to point this out, that Judge Ford is eyeballing Sandy McSuthers. She feels like Sam Westing isn't quite done with him yet. Sandy's acting interesting. He's glaring at Bertha, Erica Crow. He's drinking heavily, which is also unusual. He hadn't been doing that previously. I think that J.J. Ford, even though she hasn't come out to say, I think she's growing suspicious of Sandy and maybe who Sandy is. All right, chapter 24. Wrong, all wrong. Grace Wexler clung unsteadily to Mr. Who's arm. Where are we going? Who knows, Who replied. We didn't even pass go. Partner sat with partner at the long library table, moaning with impatience as Ed Plum opened another envelope, removed a tagged key, tried to unlock the top right-hand desk drawer, reread the tag, unlocked the upper left-hand drawer, and found the next document. 15th. Wrong. All answers are wrong. What? Sidel Pulaski cried. I repeat, wrong. All answers are wrong. Partnerships are canceled. You are on your own, alone. The lawyer will leave and return with the authorities at the appointed time. And time is running out. Hurry, find the name before the one who took my life takes another. Remember, it is not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts. Madame Who knew from the shifting eyes that a bad person was in the room. She was the bad person. They would find out soon. The crutch lady had her writing book back, but all those pretty things she was going to sell, they wanted them back too. She would be punished soon. What was just revealed? Madame Who is the what? Sounds like she has people's personal belongings that she wants to sell. How much time do we have? Turtle asked. Ed Plum left the library without answering and locked the door. Oh my, Flora Baumbach ran to the French doors. They opened. Sidel Pulaski complained of a chill, and the dressmaker had to shut the doors, but she left them unlatched just in case. Mr. Who said the tea tasted funny. Maybe they had all been poisoned. Denton Deer diagnosed paranoia. The doorman, who was pacing the room, replied that anyone who was not paranoid after being told that the murderer would kill again was really crazy. He stopped to pat Turtle's slumped shoulders. Cheer up, my friend. The game's not over yet, Sandy whispered. You still can win. I hope you do. Otis Amber told everyone to sit where he could watch them. Theo rose. I think it's about time we played as a team and shared our clues and shared the inheritance. With the murder? Well, all right, agreed. Sidel Pulaski still thought the answer had something to do with America the Beautiful. Does anybody have a clue word that is not in the song? I'm not sure, Doug said mischievously. Sing it again? No one cared for that idea. It is not what you have, it's what you don't have that counts, Jake Wexler reminded them. Maybe some words in the song are missing from the clues. That makes sense. Does anyone have the word amber? Mr. Who asked. Not again, Otis Amber groaned. You heard the will. It said all answers are wrong. Well, I was one of the wrong answers. But Mr. Westing wrote the will before the game began, Sidel argued. Perhaps he assumed we weren't smart enough to find you out so soon. Judge Ford did not interfere. Otis Amber could take care of himself. She had to be prepared to defend Crow when the time came. Crow sat with her head bowed, waiting. No one had the word amber, but two pairs had am in their clues. Two ams do not an amber make, Sidel declared. Two ams stand for America, America. I've got America, Jake Wexler shouted. I've got America. Ravings of a madman, Mr. Who thought. The podiatrist, could he be the one? Jake explained in a calmer voice. The two ams could not stand for America, America, because one of my clues is America. Sandy stood, took a long swig from his flask, coughed, then spoke in a hoarse voice. We're getting nowhere. Why doesn't everybody hand in their clues so Miss Pulaski can arrange them in order and we can see what's missing? Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. The judge watched Sandy collect the clues. Just write them out again, he said to Turtle, who had eaten the originals. Then he placed the paper squares before the secretary and resumed his seat. What was her partner doing? Why was he playing into Westing's hands? He knows the answer. He knows he's leading the heirs to Crow. Again, the judge studied the doorman's battered face, the scars, the bashed-in nose, the hard blue eyes under those taped spectacles, the baggy uniform. Everyone was given the perfect partner, Chris said. Chris was right. She was paired with the one person who can confound her plans, manipulate her moves, keep her from the truth. Her partner, Sandy McSuthers, was the only heir she had not investigated. Her partner, Sandy McSuthers, was Sam Westing. The secretary quickly arranged the clues in order. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee, and thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. The missing words, Sidel Pulaski announced, are the, Erica, and Crow. Bertha, Erica, Crow. Crow paled. Judge Ford stood. May I have everyone's attention? Thank you. Please listen very carefully to what I have to say. We found the answer to Sam Westing's puzzle. Now what are we going to do? Remember, we have no evidence of any kind against this unfortunate woman. We don't even have proof that Sam Westing was murdered. Can we accuse an innocent woman of a murder that has never been proved? Crow is our neighbor and our helper. Can we condemn her to a life of imprisonment just to satisfy our own greed? For money promised in an appropriable and illegal will. If so, we are guilty of a far greater crime than the accused. Bertha Erica Crow's only crime is that her name appears in a song. Our crime would be selling, yes, I said selling for profit, the life of an innocent, helpless human being? The judge paused to let her words sink in. Then she turned to her partner. Her voice hardened. As for the master of this vicious game, she paused, what's happening to him? Sandy's hand flew to his throat. He struggled to his feet, red-faced and gasping, and crashed to the floor in eye-bulging agony. Jake Wexler and Denton Deere hurried to his aid. Theo pounded on the door, shouting for help. Ed Plum unlocked the door, and two strange men rushed past him, one carrying a doctor's bag, quickly limped on crooked legs to the side of the writhing doorman. I'm Dr. Sykes. Everyone, please move away. The heirs heard a low groan, then a rasping rattle, then nothing. Sandy, Sandy, Turtle screamed, pushing through the restraining hands. She looked down on the doorman sprawled at her feet. His face was twisted in rigid pain. His mouth gaped over the chipped front tooth. The taped glasses had fallen from his blue eyes that were locked in an unseeing stare. Suddenly his body straightened in one last violent twitch. His right eye closed, then opened again, and Sandy moved no more. He's dead, Dr. Sykes said, gently churning her away. Dead? Judge Ford repeated numbly. How could she have been so wrong? So very wrong. A sob tore through Turtle's soul as she ran to Baba's comforting arms. Baba, Baba, I don't want to play anymore. The second stranger, the sheriff of Weston County, herded them back to the game room. Without thinking, the heirs seated themselves at the assigned tables. Turtle sat quietly. It was Flora Baumbach's turn to weep. Crow waited. Only the throbbing veins in her tightly clasped hands told of her torment. Excuse me, sir, Ed Plum said. I realize this may seem inappropriate, but according to Samuel W. Westing's will, I must read another document on the hour. The sheriff checked his watch. What kind of a madhouse is this? And there's something mighty fishy about this cocky kid lawyer calling in the middle of dinner, insisting that I hurry right over. That was half an hour before anybody died. Go ahead, he grumbled. Plum cleared his throat 3 times under the sheriff's suspicious glare. 16th. I, Samuel W. Westing of Westingtown, born Sam Windy Winclopple of Watertown. I had to change my name for business purposes. After all, who would buy a product called Winclopple's toilet tissues? Would you? Do hereby declare that if no one wins, this will is null and void. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right up and collect your prize. The lawyer will count off 5 minutes. Good luck and happy 4th of July. Winclopple? Did someone say Winclopple? Grace Wexler slurred. I knew Westing wasn't an immigrant's name, Sidel Pulaski said. I knew it. The man was insane, Denton Deere diagnosed. Shh. There was struggling with their conscience. Millions and millions of dollars just for naming her name. 1 minute is up. The heirs stared at the answer. Bertha Erica Crow, a religious fanatic, maybe even crazy, but a murderer? They had no evidence that Westing was murdered. The judge said so. Crow waited. She had not suffered enough for her sins. Her penance was yet to begin. 2 minutes are up. $200 million, Turtle thought. But who gets it? The last part the lawyer read wasn't very businesslike. Besides, she could never peach on anybody, not even Crow. Who cares about anything anyhow? Sandy is dead. Sandy was her friend. Now she'll never see him again, ever. Judge Ford tried not to look at the empty chair at her table, McSuther's chair. Her one concern was the safety of Crow. The judge watched the heirs and waited. Crow waited. 3 minutes are up. Westing wasn't murdered. The judge said so. But what about Sandy? He was drinking from the flask Crow filled, and he died choking. Poison? Crow felt the eyes on her, the hating eyes. They scoffed at her beliefs. They joked about her soup kitchen. Only 2 people here mattered to her. She was so tired of waiting. 4 minutes are up. The answer is Bertha Erica Crow. No, Angela cried. No. She's crazy, Otis Amber shouted. She don't know what she's saying. Yes, I do, Otis, Crow said flatly and repeated her statement. The answer is Bertha Erica Crow. She rose and turned to the confused lawyer. I am Bertha Erica Crow. I am the answer, and I am the winner. I give half of my inheritance to Otis Amber to be used for the Good Salvation Soup Kitchen. I give the rest of the money to Angela. Stopping there. Oh my goodness. Lots happened. So here's what I'd like you to do is coming back to this, make sure that you're filling out the new titles. I'm going to go through them one more time before we end, so maybe you can write them down as I read them. I'd like you to add some clues here about Sam Westing. So I think that we can all agree now that Sam Westing was in fact not dead. But then who is Sam Westing? And now what just happened to Sandy? Was Sandy killed? Was he murdered? I know that it looks like Bertha Erica Crow did it, maybe poisoned his flask, but that almost seems too simple. And how is it that the lawyer knew to call 30 minutes before Sandy dropped down dead for Sidney Sykes and the county sheriff to come out? peculiar that it's Sidney Sykes that comes to pronounce him dead. A lot of information. I think that we should put some of those clues and information pieces here, and I will review that tomorrow with you. We also come back to this piece, and I'm wondering if you guys were able to predict Bertha Erica Crow. If in fact you were able to, I'd love to see you drop a comment or send me an email. I'm wondering how many of you were able to put that together based off of our clues that we were doing ahead of time. I look forward to reading with you guys tomorrow. I can't wait to read again. We have a lot to discuss. We are getting near the end. There are only 30 chapters, and we are already on chapter 25. So we're going to hustle through those last 5 chapters so we can have the closure that I think that we're all waiting for. Your question now, kind of thinking about filling out this paper, is I want you guys to be thinking about what's the purpose of this game? Who did it? Is Sam Westing dead? And if he isn't, who is he? Who's playing him? How is Sidney Sykes involved? So many questions, not enough answers. Okay, so I'm coming back to chapter 23 just to quickly read the job titles again so you can write them in. Madame Who, cook. Jake Wexler, bookie. Flora Baumbach, dressmaker. Turtle Wexler, financier. Christos Theodorakis, ornithologist. Denton Deere, intern. J.J. Ford, judge. Alexander McSuthers, fired. Gracie Winklopper Wexler, restaurateur. James Who, inventor. Bertha Erica Crow, mother. Otis Amber, deliverer. Douglas Who, champ. Theo Theodorakis, writer. Sidel Pulaski, victim. And Angela Wexler, person. All right, until next time, Dolphins, you guys have a good rest of the day. Bye.